They say the heart wants what it wants. But what happens when what your heart wants is completely, undeniably off limits? When the person who makes your pulse race and your breath catch is the one person you should never fall for. This is the story of how I fell in love with my brother's best friend. And how he fell just as hard for me. The summer I turned 24, I moved back home to Seattle after 3 years of chasing dreams in New York City. My graphic design career hadn't exactly taken off the way I hoped, and my savings account was on life support. So there I was, dragging my overstuffed suitcases through the front door of my childhood home, trying to ignore the feeling that I was somehow moving backward in life. My name is Adrian Chen, and if you'd told me that coming home would lead to the most intense, complicated love story of my life, I would have laughed in your face. My older brother Marcus still lived at home too, but for entirely different reasons. He'd landed a great job at a tech startup downtown and was saving up to buy his own place. At 27, he had his life together in ways I was still figuring out. We'd always been close despite our differences. He was the outgoing athlete, I was the quiet creative. He spent weekends playing basketball. I spent mine sketching in coffee shops. Adrian, get down here, lazy ass, Marcus's voice boomed up the stairs on my third day back. I rolled my eyes, setting down the box of art supplies I'd been unpacking. It's 9 in the morning on a Saturday, Marcus. Some of us value sleep. Yeah, well, some of us have friends coming over for breakfast, and mom wants you to be social. Remember social, that thing you used to do before turning into a New York hermit? I trudged downstairs in my old college hoodie and sweatpants, my black hair still messy from sleep. The smell of mom's famous banana pancakes filled the air, instantly softening my mood. And that's when I saw him. Ethan Rodriguez. He stood in our kitchen like he'd always belonged there, laughing at something mom said, his whole face glowing with warmth. He'd always been good-looking, but 3 years had turned cute into absolutely magnetic. His dark hair was styled back, his cheekbones sharper, his shoulders broader beneath a simple white t-shirt that fit him far too well. But it was his eyes that stopped me, cold, deep brown, almost black, with flecks of amber that caught the morning light. And they were looking right at me. Adrian, his voice was deeper now, smoother, one of those voices that seemed to vibrate right through your chest. Damn man, you're back. Before I could respond, he crossed the kitchen in 3 long strides and pulled me into a hug. He smelled like cedar and something citrusy, bergamot, maybe, and the hug lasted just a beat longer than friendly. His hand lingered against the small of my back, warm and grounding. Hey Ethan, I managed, my voice embarrassingly unsteady. He grinned, that same lopsided smile I remembered from years ago, now even more dangerous. You look different, he said. 3 years of adulting will do that, I replied. You look good too, guess Seattle suits you. Marcus clapped him on the back, completely oblivious to the silent storm in my chest. Ethan's here every weekend, he's basically family now, Mom adopted him. Someone has to make sure this one eats vegetables, Mom teased, setting down a platter of pancakes. Ethan, sweetheart, sit down, Adrian, stop hovering like a ghost. Breakfast was both wonderful and torturous. Ethan sat right across from me and I was hyper-aware of every glance, every smile, every accidental brush of his knee against mine under the table. He talked about his job. He was now an architect at a prestigious firm downtown, having just finished designing a community center in the International District. It's important, you know, he said, his voice lighting up with passion. Creating spaces where people feel like they belong, especially for communities that have been overlooked. Architecture should be about more than buildings. It's about connection, identity, home. I found myself leaning forward, completely drawn in. That's beautiful, I said softly. Too many people forget that any design is ultimately about the human experience. Our eyes met and something passed between us, recognition, understanding, a spark that made the rest of the world fade away. Exactly, he said, his voice low, I knew you'd get it. Then Marcus, blissfully unaware, started telling some story about his company's latest project, and the moment broke. Still, I couldn't stop glancing at Ethan for the rest of breakfast. And more than once, I caught him looking back. Afterward, Marcus suggested they shoot hoops in the driveway. I begged off, claiming I needed to unpack, but really I needed to breathe. I'd known Ethan Rodriguez since I was 15. He'd been Marcus's best friend forever, a fixture at family dinners, holidays, and weekend hangouts. I'd had a harmless teenage crush on him back then, what gay teenager would? But I'd long buried those feelings. Except now, watching him from my bedroom window as he played basketball with my brother, his t-shirt riding up just enough to show toned abs, those old feelings came roaring back. They weren't harmless anymore, they were immediate, electric, and completely off-limits. I forced myself to focus on unpacking, but my mind kept drifting, to his smile, his warmth, that unspoken moment at the table. Stop it, I told myself, he's your brother's best friend, he's straight, and even if he wasn't, he's off-limits. My phone buzzed, it was my best friend Lily from New York. Lily, how's the homecoming? Seattle miss you. Me, complicated, I think I'm in trouble. Lily, ooh, hot neighbor, cute barista. Me, worse, my brother's best friend. Lily, the plot thickens, is he gay? Single, breathing. Me, no idea, and I'm not finding out, this is a disaster waiting to happen. Lily, or maybe it's the universe giving you a chance, when are you gonna stop playing it safe, Adrian? I stared at her message for a long moment. Playing it safe, that had always been my pattern. Safe choices, safe jobs, safe love that never risked breaking my heart. A knock on my door made me jump. Come in, I said, expecting Marcus. But it was Ethan. Suddenly my childhood bedroom felt impossibly small. He glanced around, taking in the art prints on the walls, the sketches scattered across my desk, the creative chaos that was so me. Marcus went to grab drinks, he said. I hope it's okay that I came up. Your mom said you were unpacking and I thought maybe I could actually talk to you without an audience. My mouth went dry. Yeah, of course, I said quickly, sorry, it's a mess. He smiled. Are you kidding? This is amazing. He moved closer to my desk, studying a set of character sketches I'd been working on for a freelance project. You've gotten so much better, he said softly. You were always talented, but this, he picked up one of the drawings, handling it with care. This is professional level work, Adrian. Why'd you come back from New York? I thought you were doing well as a designer. The genuine interest in his voice made something tighten in my chest. I sat on the edge of my bed, and after a moment he joined me, close enough for warmth but still leaving a respectful space between us. The making it part didn't really happen, I admitted, surprised by how easy it was to open up to him. Turns out New York has a million designers and I wasn't special enough to stand out. I burned through my savings trying to make rent and build a portfolio. Eventually I had to call it quits. That's not failure, Ethan said firmly. That's being brave enough to chase your dream and smart enough to regroup when you need to. Most people never even try. I looked at him, really looked, and saw only honesty in his expression. When did you get so wise? I asked. He laughed, warm and self-conscious. I'm not wise, I've learned a lot these past few years. Life rarely goes the way we plan, and sometimes that's the best thing about it. The detours lead to the most interesting places. Something flickered across his face, vulnerability, maybe a shadow of memory. Speaking from experience, I asked. He hesitated. Yeah, I came out 2 years ago. The words hung in the air between us, heavy with meaning. My heart started racing, but I kept my tone steady. Oh, I didn't know, Marcus never mentioned. He doesn't know, Ethan said quietly. He ran a hand through his hair, the movement nervous, endearing. Some people know my family, a few friends from work, but I haven't told Marcus yet. It never felt like the right time. He's my best friend, I didn't want to risk losing that. Marcus isn't like that, I said automatically, even as my thoughts raced. He'd be supportive, he's always been supportive of me. Ethan's eyes softened. You're out to your family. Yeah, since I was 18, my parents were amazing about it, Marcus too. He even went with me to my first Pride parade, I said, smiling at the memory. He wore this ridiculous rainbow tank top and declared himself my bodyguard. Ethan chuckled. That sounds like him, maybe I've been overthinking it. Probably, I agreed, then added before I could stop myself, so why tell me this now? He held my gaze, the intensity in his eyes making it hard to breathe. Because I wanted you to know, because when you walked into the kitchen this morning, he paused, searching for words. I thought I'd moved on, but then there you were and everything came back. My world tilted. What are you saying? Adrian, he said, his voice trembling, I've had feelings for you since we were teenagers, real ones. I tried to ignore them, to date other people, to convince myself it was just because you were Marcus's little brother, off limits, forbidden, but it was never that simple. I couldn't speak, the air felt too thick, my thoughts scattered. When you left for New York, I thought it would fade, but it didn't, he continued quietly. Now you're back and you're even more incredible than I remember. I know this could ruin everything, but I can't keep pretending I don't feel it. Ethan, I started, but he lifted a hand. You don't have to say anything, I'm not asking for anything, I just needed you to know. He stood and stepped toward the door. I should go, let you finish unpacking. Wait, I said before I could stop myself. He turned, a mix of hope and fear in his eyes. I need time to process this, I said. You kind of turned my world upside down. Good upside down or bad? He asked, his smile faint but real. I don't know yet, I admitted, but Ethan, thank you for being honest, that took courage. He nodded, lingering just a moment longer before leaving. The sound of his footsteps faded down the stairs, leaving me alone with a racing heart and 1,000 thoughts. I fell back on my bed, staring up at the ceiling as Lily's words echoed in my mind. When are you going to stop playing it safe, Adrian? The truth was, nothing about Ethan Rodriguez felt safe. He felt like standing on the edge of something vast and terrifying, like falling, like flying, and for the first time in my life, I didn't want to be safe anymore. The week after Ethan's confession blurred by, awkward, tense, and electric. He kept coming around, of course he did. He and Marcus had their routines, family dinners, basketball games, weekend plans, but now every look, every word, every touch carried a weight neither of us could ignore. I caught him watching me when he thought I wasn't looking, and I caught myself doing the same. On Wednesday evening, I was in the kitchen making tea when he walked in. He froze for a second when he saw me alone. Hey, he said quietly, his voice carrying that careful gentleness I'd started to recognize. Hey yourself, I replied, gripping my mug like an anchor. We should probably talk about everything, I said. Yeah, he agreed, leaning back against the counter. He wore a dark blue shirt, sleeves rolled up, the fabric clinging to his forearms. I forced myself to keep my eyes on his face. Look, I don't want to make you uncomfortable, he began, if you want me to back off. I don't know what I want, I interrupted. That's the problem, you've been Marcus's best friend forever, you're part of the family, if something happens between us and it goes wrong, I trailed off. I know, Ethan said softly, believe me, I've thought about every possible way this could crash and burn. He paused, then met my eyes. But Adrian, what if it does, what if it goes right? The hope in his voice hit me hard, that's a big what if. The biggest, he admitted, smiling faintly, but don't you feel this too? He gestured between us and I didn't need him to explain. The pull between us was undeniable, like gravity, impossible to fight. Before I could answer, Marcus's voice called from the living room, shattering the moment. Ethan, you still here, the game about to start. Ethan gave me one last look before heading out, leaving me alone with my thoughts and a cooling cup of tea. That Friday night, everything changed. Marcus went out with coworkers and my parents were visiting my aunt. I'd planned to spend the evening working on a freelance project, but around 8 the doorbell rang. Ethan stood on the porch, soaked from the rain, breathing hard like he'd been running. I can't do this anymore, he said, his voice raw. I can't pretend everything's fine. If you tell me to walk away, I will, but if there's even a chance you feel something, anything, I need to know. Rain dripped from his hair, his shirt clinging to him, and he looked completely undone. I should have been rational, thought through the consequences. Instead, I pulled him inside. I feel it, I said, my voice trembling. Ethan, I feel it so much it scares me. His eyes widened, hope flickering to life. Yeah, I breathed. I've been trying to fight it, telling myself all the reasons it's a bad idea, but the truth is I haven't stopped thinking about you since that morning, since you hugged me, since you told me how you felt. Adrian, he whispered, my name soft on his lips. We stood there, inches apart, the air between us charged and fragile. He reached up, brushing a thumb along my cheek, his touch steady but tender. "Tell me I can kiss you," he said. "You can," I whispered. The kiss started slow, cautious, like we were both afraid of breaking something fragile. His lips were warm, and the world seemed to narrow down to that one perfect moment. It deepened, emotion surging between us, not wild but certain. Everything we hadn't said found its voice in that single touch. When we finally pulled apart, both of us were breathless, caught between laughter and disbelief. He pressed his forehead against mine. "We should take this slow," he murmured. "I know," I said, smiling through my racing heartbeat, "but I don't want to stop either." He laughed softly. "You're impossible." "Then stay," I whispered. "Not for anything more, just stay, talk to me, be here." He hesitated, then nodded. "I'd like that." We spent the rest of the night curled up on the couch, talking about everything and nothing, our pasts, our fears, our hopes. He told me about coming out to his family, how it had been confusing at first but worth it. About the relationships that never lasted because no one ever felt quite right. And I told him about New York, the noise, the loneliness, and the quiet truth that maybe I'd come home to find something I didn't even realize I'd been missing. I'd been running from more than just Seattle. For years, I'd been running from myself. "I think I was scared," I admitted softly. "Scared of wanting things I couldn't have, scared of being seen too clearly. It's easier to keep people at a distance." "You don't have to do that with me," Ethan said gently, his hand finding mine. "I see you, Adrian, I've always seen you, and I'm not going anywhere." Around midnight, we heard Marcus's car pull into the driveway. We jumped apart like kids caught doing something wrong. Ethan shifted to the far end of the couch, both of us trying to look calm despite the obvious tension. Marcus stumbled in, smiling, clearly a few drinks in. "Bro, didn't know you were still here. You guys hanging out? That's cool. Love when my favorite people get along." He was too tipsy to notice how we couldn't quite meet each other's eyes or how the air between us still hummed. "Yeah, just watching a movie," Ethan said smoothly. "I should head out though." "Nah, man," Marcus said, clapping him on the shoulder. "Crash here, you know you're always welcome. Adrian can take the couch, you can have the guest room." "I'll take the couch," I said quickly. "Ethan should get the guest room." We said goodnight. I lay awake for hours, my mind replaying every second of that night, his words, his warmth, the quiet promise between us. I could feel that something had shifted, something that couldn't be undone. In the guest room upstairs, I knew Ethan was awake too. It was like there was a thread connecting us across the quiet house. I'd spent so long playing it safe, and now I was free falling. The truth was, I didn't want to stop. The next few weeks became a delicate dance of stolen moments. We couldn't stay away from each other, yet we couldn't let Marcus find out. It was too new, too uncertain, something fragile we needed to protect until we understood what it really was. Saturday mornings became our secret time. Marcus always slept late, and Ethan would show up early with coffee and pastries from our favorite bakery. We'd walk through the quiet streets, our hands brushing now and then, or sit in the backyard where the morning sun turned everything gold. "I feel like I'm in high school again," Ethan said one morning, laughing softly as we sat on the porch swing. "Except in high school, I was a closeted mess who barely talked to you," I teased. He grinned. "Yeah, this is definitely better." We laughed quietly, trying to ignore the way we both kept glancing at the door, afraid Marcus might come out. These moments felt stolen, precious, and each one pulled us deeper in. But the secrecy was wearing on us. Every time we had to act like nothing was happening, it chipped away at something inside me. "We have to tell him," I said one evening, leaning against Ethan's chest at his apartment. "I know," he admitted quietly. "I'm just scared of losing him, of losing all of this, your family, the dinners, the way it all fits together. What if he can't handle it?" "Marcus loves you," I said. "He loves me. He'll be shocked, maybe even hurt that we kept it secret, but he'll come around." Ethan's arm tightened around me. "What if he makes you choose?" "Then I choose you," I said without hesitation. The words hung between us, steady, real. He looked at me with something between disbelief and joy. "You mean that?" "I do," I said. "You're not a secret, Ethan. You're the best thing that's happened to me. I'm done hiding it." He exhaled, relief and emotion in his eyes. "Okay," he said finally, "we tell him together." We planned to sit Marcus down that weekend, but fate had other plans. That Thursday, I went out to meet some old friends from high school at a bar in Capitol Hill. I hadn't expected to see Ethan there, but he showed up, smiling like he couldn't stay away. We found a quiet corner booth, laughing and talking, lost in our own world. And then, like a slow-motion nightmare, I saw Marcus at the entrance. For a moment, he just looked confused, then realization hit and hurt filled his face. He turned and walked out before either of us could move. "Marcus," I called, but he was already outside. We chased after him into the rain. He stood by his car, shoulders tight, hands clenched. "How long?" he asked, his voice low and controlled. "About a month," Ethan said quietly. "Marcus, please let us explain." "A month," Marcus repeated, his voice rising. "You've been sneaking around behind my back for a month. You're my best friend, Ethan, and you—" He turned to me, eyes full of disbelief. "You're my brother. Did you think I wouldn't care?" "We were going to tell you," I said quickly. "This weekend, we just needed time." "Time for what?" he snapped. "What even is this? Are you dating? What is it?" Ethan met his gaze. "I love him," he said quietly. "I'm in love with Adrian. I have been for years. This isn't a game." The words hung in the cold night air, heavier than the rain. "This is real," Ethan said quietly, "and it's serious. We should have told you sooner. That part's on us, but don't doubt what this is." Marcus looked between us, then down at our joined hands. The rain kept falling, cold and steady, but none of us moved. "You love him?" Marcus asked finally, his tone softer now. "More than I've ever loved anyone," Ethan said, steady and sure. Marcus turned to me. "I love him too," I said, meeting his eyes. "I know this isn't what you expected. I know it's complicated, but he makes me happier than I've been in years. I'm sorry we didn't tell you right away, but I'm not sorry about us." The silence stretched, heavy with everything unsaid. Then Marcus sighed, rubbing the back of his neck. "I'm not mad that you're together," he said finally. "I'm not thrilled about the sneaking around, but I'm not mad about this." He gestured between us. "I always wondered if you were into guys, Ethan. There were signs, but I figured you'd tell me when you were ready." "I should have," Ethan admitted quietly. "About being gay, about Adrian, about everything." "Yeah," Marcus said, his voice softening. "You should've, but I get it. I know it wasn't easy." A small smile tugged at his mouth. "And honestly, if Adrian going to date anyone, I'm glad it's someone who'll treat him right. I know you, Ethan, you'll take care of him." Tears stung my eyes. "You mean that? You're really okay with this?" Marcus groaned. "I'll need a little time to adjust to the mental image, okay? You're still my baby brother, that's weird, but yeah, I'm okay with it. You two have my blessing or whatever." He looked at Ethan, his tone mock serious. "But if you hurt him?" "I won't," Ethan promised immediately. "Never." "Dramatic, but I'll take it," Marcus said, breaking into a real smile. "Now come on, before we all get pneumonia, we've got some family conversations ahead and Mom's definitely going to cry." Telling my parents went better than I expected. Mom did cry, but they were happy tears. Dad clapped Ethan on the shoulder. "I always liked you, son," he said in his usual gruff way. "Just treat him right." "Always," Ethan said simply, and I knew he meant it. The next few months were like breathing new air. No more hiding, no more pretending, we could just be. Ethan took me on real dates, dinners in Fremont, late walks along the waterfront, weekends hiking in the Cascades. He was thoughtful and quiet, everyday ways, leaving notes in my sketchbook, remembering my coffee order, noticing things most people overlooked. "You're giving me unrealistic expectations for future relationships," I told him one evening as we watched the sunset from Cary Park, the city glowing gold below us. "Good thing this is your last one then," he said with a grin, wrapping his arms around me from behind. "Confident, aren't you?" About us, he turned me to face him. "Yeah, I am." His voice was steady, his smile soft. "This isn't temporary, Adrian, you're it, my person." Emotion caught in my throat. "You really waited all these years?" "I did," he said simply, "and now that I have you, I'm not letting go." We stood there, the skyline gleaming around us, and I knew he meant every word. But life doesn't pause, even when things feel perfect. In October, I got a call from a Portland gaming studio, a 6-month contract designing characters and environments for a new title. It was everything I'd dreamed of, everything I'd worked toward. It's 4 hours away, I said nervously after telling Ethan. You have to take it, he said immediately, though I could see the flicker of worry in his eyes. Adrian, this is huge, this is what you've been working for. What I want is you, I said, my hands gripping his. I just got you, I'm not ready to leave. It's 6 months, he reminded me gently, not forever, we can make it work. Can we? I asked quietly. Long distance is hard, what if? No what ifs, he cut in firmly. You're it for me, remember? 6 months, 6 years, 60, I'm not going anywhere. You take this opportunity, build your career, and I'll be here cheering you on. And when you come back, or if you stay, we'll figure it out together. You'd move to Portland, I asked, stunned. I'd move anywhere for you, he said like it was the simplest truth in the world. And right then, looking at him, I realized this wasn't a risk anymore. It was the beginning of everything. Not fear this time, but clarity. No, I said, watching his brow furrow. No, you won't take the job, you don't have to move for me because I'm coming back. I laced my fingers through his. 6 months and then I'm coming home to Seattle, to you, we'll build our life here together. Relief softened his expression. You're sure? I don't want you giving up opportunities for me. I'm not giving up anything, I said quietly, I'm choosing what matters most. I leaned closer, resting my forehead against his. 6 months will fly by, we'll video chat every night, I'll visit on weekends, you'll come see me in Portland, it'll be an adventure. An adventure, he repeated, a smile tugging at his lips. I like the sound of that. Those 6 months in Portland were both the longest and shortest of my life. The work was everything I'd dreamed of, creative, challenging, fulfilling. My designs made it into the final game and I built connections that promised future collaborations. But every night I fell asleep missing Ethan, his laugh, his warmth, the way he looked at me like I was something rare. We never missed a video call. Sometimes we talked for hours, sometimes just long enough to say goodnight. He sent me care packages, my favorite snacks, hoodies that smelled like him, silly drawings that somehow made me cry. When I came home for Thanksgiving, Ethan was there, helping my mom cook, flour dusting his cheek, joy in his eyes. The moment he saw me, he crossed the room and wrapped me in his arms. Okay, seriously, you two need to tone it down, Marcus teased, grinning. Leave them alone, Mom said, eyes misty, it's beautiful. At Christmas, Ethan took me to the Space Needle. The city sparkled beneath us, lights glittering like stars. He pulled a small box from his pocket. It's not what you think, he said quickly, smiling nervously. Not yet, I want to do that right when you're back for good, but I wanted to give you this. Inside was a simple silver band, elegant and understated. It's a promise, he said softly, sliding it onto my right hand. A promise that I'll be here waiting, that this us is real and lasting. When you come home in March, I'll spend every day showing you how much you mean to me. I kissed him under the lights of Seattle, feeling everything click into place. March came faster than expected. My last day in Portland was bittersweet. I'd loved the city, the work, the people, but my heart was already 4 hours north. Ethan offered to help me move, but I insisted on driving myself. I had plans. I arrived in Seattle late Friday afternoon without telling anyone my exact return time. My heart pounded as I knocked on his door. When Ethan opened it, his stunned expression made every mile worth it. Adrian, he breathed, you're not supposed to be back until tomorrow. I dropped my bag and threw my arms around him. Surprise, I murmured, laughing. I couldn't wait one more day. God, I missed you, he whispered, holding me tight. I missed you so much. That night was a blur of laughter, joy, and quiet closeness. Two people finding each other again after months apart. It wasn't about rushing anything, it was about remembering what love felt like when distance finally disappeared. Later, as we lay side by side, city lights glowing through the window, Ethan turned to me. Move in with me, he said suddenly, tracing soft patterns on my shoulder. I blinked. What? Move in with me, he repeated, smiling. You're looking for a place anyway, move here instead. Let's start our life, no more distance, no more waiting. Ethan, that's a big step. I've never been more sure, he said, cupping my face. I love you, Adrian. I want to wake up next to you every morning, come home to you every night, build something real with you. Yeah, maybe this apartment's small and Marcus will tease us, but I don't care, I want all of it with you. Tears filled my eyes. You really thought about where my art supplies would go. He laughed, that warm, beautiful sound I'd fallen in love with. Adrian, I've been planning our life together since I was 17. Yes, I whispered, smiling through tears, yes to everything. Moving in together was chaotic and perfect. My art took over the spare room, we debated decor, he loved minimalist, I loved cozy, and ended up meeting halfway. We learned each other's rhythms, his early mornings, my late nights, shared laughter over burnt toast. We built a life that was real and sometimes messy, but always ours. Marcus came by for Sunday dinners, teasing us while we laughed over wine. And every time I looked at Ethan across the table, I knew this was home. One evening in June, 3 months after moving in, I came home to find candles glowing across the apartment. Ethan stood there in a crisp shirt I'd never seen before, nervous, hopeful, and more beautiful than ever. "What's all this?" I asked, setting down my bag. He smiled softly, taking my hand. "I have something to ask you," he said, leading me toward the living room. "And before you say I'm being dramatic," Ethan said softly, "just let me do this properly." He dropped to one knee and my heart stopped. "Adrian Chen," he began, his voice unsteady but filled with love, "when you walked into the kitchen that morning last summer, it felt like the universe was giving me a second chance. A chance to be brave enough to tell you how I felt, to build something real with the person I'd loved quietly for so long." He opened a small velvet box to reveal a simple platinum band. "These past 10 months have been the best of my life. You challenge me, inspire me, make me want to be better. You're my best friend, my partner, my home, and I don't want to spend another day not being engaged to you. So, Adrian, will you marry me? Will you let me spend the rest of my life loving you, supporting your dreams, and yes, still arguing about coffee mug placement?" Tears streamed down my face, but I was smiling so hard it hurt. "Yes," I whispered, pulling him up and kissing him. "Yes, yes, 1,000 times yes." He slipped the ring onto my finger with trembling hands. We stood there holding each other, laughing and crying at the same time, completely overwhelmed with joy. "I love you," I whispered. "I love you too," he said, pressing a gentle kiss to my forehead. "My fiancé, I'll never get tired of saying that." We told Marcus the next day over brunch, and he whooped so loudly the entire restaurant turned to stare. "Finally," he said, pulling us both into a crushing hug, "I've been waiting for you to propose for months, man." I even helped him pick the ring. "You knew?" I asked, wide-eyed. "Of course," Marcus said proudly. "He asked for my permission like we're in some kind of Jane Austen novel. It was adorable. Besides, someone had to make sure he got it right. You're my baby brother. Even if you're marrying my best friend, I still get veto power on the ring." "Your approval means everything," Ethan said dryly, though he was smiling. "As it should," Marcus replied with a grin. "Now, when's the wedding? Because I need time to write an epic best man speech about how I introduced you two." "You didn't introduce us. We've known each other for a decade," I said, laughing. "Details," Marcus waved it off. "I'm taking credit anyway." We were married the following spring in a small ceremony at the Seattle Japanese Garden, surrounded by cherry blossoms and the people we loved most. Marcus stood beside Ethan as his best man, crying through his entire speech, which, true to his word, credited himself for our love story. Lily flew in from New York as my person of honor, radiant in a lavender suit, making everyone laugh with stories about my late-night phone calls from Portland. But the best moment was standing across from Ethan, holding his hands as we exchanged vows, realizing that this incredible, unexpected love was mine to keep. "I promise to always see you," Ethan said, his voice thick with emotion. "To support your dreams, celebrate your victories, and hold you through the hard days. I promise to be your safe place, your partner in adventure, and your home. I'll love you with everything I am for all the days of my life." "I promise to be brave," I said, tears spilling freely. "To never stop choosing you even when it's hard. I promise to build a life with you full of art, laughter, and love. To be your biggest fan, your softest landing, and your forever person. I promise to love you exactly as you are, completely and endlessly." When the officiant pronounced us married and Ethan kissed me beneath falling cherry blossoms, I knew with absolute certainty that coming home, to Seattle, to my family, to him, was the best decision I'd ever made. "Adrian, the gallery called," Ethan's voice pulled me from my thoughts years later. "They want 3 more pieces for the showcase." I looked up from my drafting table, smiling as he burst into my studio, his face lit with excitement. "That's amazing," I said, standing to kiss him. Even after 5 years of marriage, 7 together, the simple act of kissing my husband still made my heart race. "You're amazing," he corrected, wrapping his arms around me. "My incredibly talented husband, whose art is about to be featured in one of Seattle's top galleries. Says the architect who just won the Pacific Northwest Design Award," I teased, glowing from his praise. We built a beautiful life together. My freelance career had flourished. I was illustrating children's books and designing games that told stories about diverse families and LGBTQ+ characters. Ethan's community center project had opened doors to more commissions, inclusive, inspiring spaces across the city. We'd bought a cozy house in Capitol Hill, complete with a small garden we tended to badly but with love. Marcus lived 2 blocks away with his girlfriend Emma, and our Sunday dinners had turned into a weekly tradition of laughter, takeout, and competitive board games. My parents traveled often in retirement but always came home for birthdays and holidays. We found our people, a chosen family who understood our journey and celebrated every step of it. Life wasn't perfect. We had our arguments, stressful weeks, moments of doubt, but we had each other, and that made everything worth it. "Remember when you thought loving me was a terrible idea?" Ethan asked one evening, reading my thoughts like he always could. "I remember thinking it was complicated," I said, wrapping my arms around his neck. "And I was right, it is complicated, but it's also the best thing that ever happened to me." "Same," he murmured, kissing me softly. "Best terrible idea I ever had." "The very best," I agreed, kissing him again, tasting love, promise, and home. Because that's what we'd built together. Not just a house or a life, but a home, a place where we belonged completely and unconditionally. Where love wasn't something that happened to us, but something we chose every single day in 1,000 small ways. My brother's best friend fell for me, and I couldn't stop him. More than that, I didn't want to. And thank God for that, because loving Ethan Rodriguez turned out to be the smartest, bravest, and most beautiful thing I ever did.